The glass tower of Harlow Industries stood silent against the Chicago skyline, its windows reflecting the scattered lights of the sleeping city below. Inside, the 40th floor remained dimly lit, with only the soft hum of computers breaking. The stillness. Natalie Brooks adjusted her security badge as she made her rounds through the executive corridor, her footsteps muffled by the plush carpet that covered the hallways. 28 years old and working 2 jobs to support her younger brother through college, Natalie had learned to appreciate the quiet solitude of the night shift. The position paid better than most security jobs, and the peaceful environment gave her time to think about her future. She had dreams of becoming a private investigator someday, but for now, she focused on getting through each shift without incident. Her walkie-talkie crackled to life. "Brooks, status report on floor 40. All clear, control room. Making final rounds now," she responded, glancing at her watch. 2 hours until her shift ended. As Natalie walked past the conference rooms, she noticed a faint light coming from beneath the door of conference room B. Her training kicked in immediately. The executive floor should be empty at this hour. She approached cautiously, pressing her ear against the heavy wooden door. "The transfer needs to happen before Thursday," a male voice said urgently. Natalie recognized it as Graham Foster, the chief financial officer who always walked past her without acknowledgement. "What about Vincent?" a woman's voice asked. "He reviews every major transaction personally." "That's exactly the point, Rebecca," Graham replied with a cold laugh. "When the authorities investigate, they'll find his authorization on everything. The forensic accountants will trace it all back to him. By the time he realizes what happened, we'll already have the money transferred offshore." Natalie's breath caught in her throat. Vincent Harlow was the founder and CEO of Harlow Industries, the man whose vision had created thousands of jobs and revolutionized data security technology. She had seen him a few times during her shifts, always working late, always pushing himself harder than anyone else in the building. "What if someone finds out?" Rebecca Winter's voice wavered slightly. "Who's going to find out?" Graham scoffed. "Everyone trusts us. We've been with Vincent since the beginning. Besides, once the SEC investigation starts, nobody will question the evidence. He'll be too busy defending himself to figure out the truth." Natalie's mind raced. She knew she should walk away, pretend she had heard nothing. Getting involved in executive politics could cost her this job, and she desperately needed the income. But the image of Vincent Harlow working tirelessly in his office while his trusted advisors plotted his downfall made her stomach turn. She carefully backed away from the door, her heart pounding so loudly she feared they might hear it. Once she reached a safe distance, Natalie hurried to the security office and reviewed the access logs. Graham Foster and Rebecca Winters had both entered the building at 11:30, using their executive clearances to bypass the normal sign-in procedures. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of anxiety and indecision. By the time 6 in the morning arrived, Natalie had made up her mind. She would warn Vincent Harlow, consequences be damned. She waited in the lobby as the morning shift began, watching executive after executive arrive for their workday. Finally, at 7:15, Vincent walked through the main entrance. He wore a tailored navy suit and carried a leather briefcase, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. Dark circles under his eyes suggested another sleepless night spent working. Natalie approached him with her heart racing. "Mr. Harlow, I need to speak with you. It's urgent." Vincent looked up from his phone, his expression polite but distant. "I'm sorry. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. If you need to report a security issue, please contact my assistant." "This isn't about security," Natalie said quickly. "Well, it is, but not the kind you think. Someone is planning to frame you for financial crimes." Vincent stopped walking and turned to face her fully. His sharp blue eyes studied her face, evaluating her sincerity. "That's quite an accusation. What's your name?" "Natalie Brooks. I work night security on the executive floor. Ms. Brooks, I appreciate your concern, but I receive threats regularly. My legal team handles all such matters." This isn't a threat from outside, Natalie insisted, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's coming from inside your own company. I heard Graham Foster and Rebecca Winters planning it last night. The color drained from Vincent's face. Graham and Rebecca were two of his oldest colleagues, people he had trusted for over a decade. He opened his mouth to dismiss her claim, but something in her expression stopped him. "Come with me," he said quietly. They rode the elevator in tense silence. When they reached his office, Vincent closed the door and gestured for Natalie to sit. The room was immaculate, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan. Awards and photos documenting his company's growth lined one wall. "Tell me exactly what you heard," Vincent said, his voice steady but his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. Natalie recounted the entire conversation in detail, watching his face grow grimmer with each word. When she finished, Vincent sat back and closed his eyes. "Do you have any proof?" he asked finally. "The access logs show they entered the building late last night. I can show you exactly when they were in that conference room." Vincent stood and walked to the window, his silhouette framed against the morning light. "If what you're telling me is true, I've been blind to a conspiracy happening right under my nose. If it's false, you've just destroyed your career for nothing." "I know what I heard," Natalie said firmly. "I wouldn't risk everything if I wasn't certain." He turned to face her, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his eyes. "Why did you come to me? You could have walked away, kept your job, avoided all this trouble." "Because it's the right thing to do," Natalie said simply. "Nobody deserves to be betrayed by people they trust." Vincent nodded slowly, making a decision. "Then we need to find proof before they execute their plan. Are you willing to help me?" Natalie thought of her brother, her two jobs, the fragile stability of her life. Then she thought of Vincent alone in his tower, surrounded by traitors. "Yes," she said, "I'll help you." Vincent spent the next 3 hours reviewing every financial transaction from the past 6 months, while Natalie returned to her apartment to get some rest. He had dismissed his assistant for the day, claiming he needed privacy for important work. The screen of his computer glowed in the afternoon light as he traced payment after payment, searching for anything unusual. His phone buzzed with a message from Natalie. "Found something. Can we meet tonight?" Vincent replied immediately. "My office, 8 o'clock. Use the service entrance." When Natalie arrived that evening, she carried a folder stuffed with printed documents. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her determination remained unshaken. Vincent had ordered dinner for both of them, realizing neither had eaten properly all day. "I pulled the security footage from last week," Natalie said, spreading papers across his conference table. "Graham and Rebecca met 5 times after hours, always in different locations throughout the building. They were being careful but not careful enough." Vincent studied the timestamps and locations. "They're establishing a pattern of late-night work. When the investigation happens, they'll claim they were working on legitimate projects." "There's more," Natalie continued. "I checked the digital access records for the finance department servers. Someone with Graham's credentials accessed the authorization system 17 times in the past month, always between midnight and 3 in the morning. Vincent felt his stomach tighten. "He's been inserting my digital signature on documents." "That's what I think, too. But I need someone with technical expertise to prove it." Vincent picked up his phone and dialed a number he had memorized years ago. "James, it's Vincent Harlow. I need your help with something sensitive." Detective James Preston had been Vincent's roommate in college before joining the Chicago Police Department. Over the years, they had remained close friends, sharing an occasional dinner or basketball game. James had even helped Harlow Industries develop security protocols for their data centers. "What's going on, Vince?" James asked, his voice concerned. "I can't explain over the phone. Can you meet me tonight? Bring someone who understands digital forensics." 2 hours later, James arrived with a laptop bag and a serious expression. Vincent introduced him to Natalie and explained the situation. James listened without interruption, his detective instincts processing every detail. If they're creating forged authorizations, there will be digital fingerprints, James said. The system logs every keystroke, every login, every file modification. We just need access to the raw data. I can get you into the system, Vincent said, but we need to do this quietly. If Graham suspects we're investigating, he'll accelerate his timeline. They worked through the night, with James and his forensic specialist examining server logs while Natalie monitored security cameras to ensure nobody unexpected entered the building. Vincent coordinated the effort, his business acumen helping them understand the financial implications of each discovery. At 4 a.m, James leaned back from his computer with a grim smile. Got him. Look at this. The screen displayed a detailed log showing Graham's credentials accessing the authorization system, but the metadata revealed something crucial. Each time Graham logged in during those midnight sessions, the computer's internal clock showed microsecond delays consistent with remote access, not someone physically at their desk. He was logging in from outside the building, James explained. Probably from home, using a VPN to mask his location. But the system still recorded the actual source IP address. Can you trace it? Vincent asked. Already did. The IP address belongs to a residential internet provider. I'll need a warrant to get the exact address, but I'm willing to bet it matches Graham's home. Natalie pulled up another document. I found something else. Rebecca Winters has been meeting with a reporter named Monica Chen from the Chicago Business Journal, 3 lunches in the past 2 weeks. Vincent's eyes widened. Monica Chen is known for her investigative pieces on corporate fraud. Rebecca is planting stories. She's creating a narrative, James agreed. When they're ready to make their move, Chen will already have sources and background for her exposé. The court of public opinion will convict you before you even know. You're under investigation. Vincent stood and walked to the window, watching the city wake up beneath him. Everything he had built over 20 years was at risk. His company employed over 3,000 people, provided security solutions for major corporations worldwide, and held patents worth billions. Graham and Rebecca weren't just stealing money. They were trying to destroy his entire legacy. We need more time to build a complete case, James said. Right now, we have evidence of unauthorized access and suspicious behavior, but nothing that definitively proves their intention to frame you. How much time do we have? Natalie asked. Vincent checked his calendar. The quarterly board meeting is Thursday afternoon. That's when Graham typically presents financial reports. If he's planning to reveal his fabricated evidence, that's when he'll do it? 2 days, James said grimly. We have 2 days to expose them or lose everything. The next morning, Vincent maintained his normal routine, attending meetings and reviewing projects as if nothing had changed. But between appointments, he and Natalie worked frantically to document every piece of evidence they had gathered. Graham and Rebecca remained unaware, continuing their preparations with confidence. That evening, Natalie received another threatening text message. This time it included a photo of her apartment building. Last warning, walk away while you still can. Her hands trembled as she showed the message to Vincent. They know I'm helping you. Vincent's jaw tightened with anger. I'm getting you protection. James can arrange for plainclothes officers to watch your building. I'm not backing down, Natalie said, though fear flickered in her eyes. We've come too far. You've already risked more than anyone should have to, Vincent said quietly. If something happened to you because of my problems, I couldn't forgive myself. This isn't just about you anymore, Natalie replied. They threatened me. They tried to intimidate me. Now, I want to see them face justice. Vincent saw the steel in her expression and recognized something of himself in her determination. She wasn't backing down, and he admired her courage more than she could know. His phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender was Rebecca Winters, marked urgent. Board meeting moved to tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Graham has critical financial information to present. Vincent looked up at Natalie and James, his face pale. They're moving up their timeline. We're out of time. The conference room on the 42nd floor filled with board members at 8:30 the next morning. Vincent sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, his expression calm despite the storm brewing inside him. Natalie waited in his office with James, monitoring the situation through the security camera feed that Vincent had quietly redirected to his private screen. Graham Foster entered with Rebecca Winters, both carrying thick folders and wearing expressions of practiced concern. The other board members chatted casually, unaware that the meeting would determine not just the company's future, but the truth about a carefully constructed conspiracy. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Rebecca began, standing at the presentation screen. "Graham discovered some irregularities in our financial records that require immediate attention." Vincent watched her performance with detached fascination. She had practiced this moment, perfecting every gesture and inflection to convey just the right mixture of shock and disappointment. Graham rose and connected his laptop to the projector. "Over the past month, I've uncovered a series of unauthorized transfers from company accounts. The total amount exceeds $47 million. Gasps echoed around the table. Board members leaned forward, their faces reflecting confusion and alarm. The transactions were carefully hidden in routine. "Operational expenses," Graham continued, displaying spreadsheets filled with highlighted entries. "But when I dug deeper, I found something disturbing. Every transfer was authorized using Vincent's digital signature." All eyes turned to Vincent. He remained perfectly still, his hands folded on the table. "Vincent, do you have an explanation?" "For this?" asked Thomas Blackwell, the board chairman and a man Vincent had known for 15 years. "I do," Vincent said calmly, "but I'd like to see all of Graham's evidence first." Graham's confidence grew as he presented document after document, each one showing Vincent's authorization on transfers to shell companies with untraceable ownership. The paper trail appeared damning and thorough. Rebecca supplemented his presentation with emails supposedly sent from Vincent's account, discussing the transfers in coded language. "I brought this to the board immediately upon discovering it," Graham said, his voice heavy with false regret. "Vincent has been like a brother to me, but the evidence is irrefutable. He's been systematically stealing from his own company." "These are serious accusations," Thomas said gravely. "Vincent, what do you have to say?" Vincent stood slowly, his movements deliberate. "I say that Graham is correct about one thing. The evidence is thorough. It's also completely fabricated." Graham's face flushed red. "That's absurd. Are you suggesting I created all this?" "Not just you," Vincent replied. "You had help from Rebecca, and you've been planning this for months." Rebecca stood abruptly. "This is outrageous. We bring evidence of embezzlement, and you attack us with conspiracy theories?" "Not theories," Vincent said. He pressed a button on his phone. "Facts." The door opened, and James Preston entered, followed by two officers in plain clothes and Natalie, who carried a laptop. The board members stirred with confusion at the unexpected arrivals. "This is Detective James Preston with the Chicago Police Department," Vincent announced. "He's been investigating the real conspiracy, the one designed to frame me and steal both company assets and my reputation." James stepped forward and placed a thick folder on the table. 4 nights ago, these two individuals met secretly in this building to finalize their plan. A security officer overheard their conversation and reported it to Mr. Harlow. All eyes shifted to Natalie, who stood beside James with her shoulders squared despite the attention. Ms. Natalie Brooks heard Graham Foster and Rebecca Winters discussing how they would frame Vincent for embezzlement, James continued. At considerable personal risk, she chose to warn him. That warning gave us time to investigate. Graham's confident expression began to crack. "This is the testimony of a security guard against senior executives. Who would believe her? The digital forensics team would, James replied. He nodded to Natalie, who opened her laptop and connected it to the projector. The screen filled with server logs, access records, and metadata analysis. Natalie's voice was steady as she explained each piece of evidence. These logs show Graham Foster accessing the authorization system 17 times from outside the building, always between midnight and 3 in the morning. The IP address traces back to his home network. He was inserting Vincent's digital signature on documents Vincent never saw. That's circumstantial, Rebecca interjected, but her voice wavered. Then let's talk about this, Vincent said, pulling up an email chain. 3 days ago, Rebecca sent an encrypted message to Monica Chen at the Chicago Business Journal. The encryption was good, but not good enough. In this message, Rebecca offers Chen an exclusive story about corporate fraud at Harlow Industries. She even provided a timeline for when the story should break. The board members erupted in shocked murmurs. Thomas Blackwell's face had turned stony as he reviewed the evidence on his tablet. There's more, James said. He placed another document on the table. We traced the shell companies receiving the transfers. They were created using falsified business registrations. The beneficial owners are hidden behind layers of offshore trusts, but we found the connection. Graham Foster's brother-in-law is listed as the registered agent for 3 of them. Graham's face went white. Rebecca grabbed her purse as if preparing to leave, but the plainclothes officers moved to block the exits. You can't prove we intended to keep that money, Graham said desperately. Maybe we were running a security test to check the company's financial controls. At midnight, without informing anyone, while simultaneously planning to blame your CEO? Vincent's voice was cold. No, Graham. You were stealing. And when the investigation you planned to trigger happened, I would have been arrested while you disappeared with $47 million. Thomas Blackwell stood, his face filled with disgust. In 30 years on corporate boards, I've never witnessed such betrayal. Graham Foster, Rebecca Winters, you are both terminated effective immediately. Detective Preston, I assume you'll be pressing charges? Multiple charges, James confirmed. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and computer crimes. We have enough evidence to ensure substantial prison sentences. As the officers moved forward to take Graham and Rebecca into custody, Graham looked at Natalie with pure hatred. This is your fault. You couldn't mind your own business. No, Natalie replied firmly. This is your fault. You chose to betray someone who trusted you. The board meeting dissolved into chaos as lawyers were called and statements prepared. Vincent found himself standing by the window with Natalie, watching as police cars arrived to officially take Graham and Rebecca away. I don't know how to thank you, Vincent said quietly. You saved everything I've built. You risked your life for someone you barely knew. Natalie shook her head. I did what anyone should do when they see something wrong. You would have done the same. Vincent turned to face her, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not as a security guard or a witness, but as someone with remarkable courage and integrity. I'm creating a new position in the company, he said. Director of Internal Security and Ethics. The salary is substantial, and you'll have the authority to investigate any concerns without interference. I need someone I can trust absolutely. Someone who proved they'll do the right thing even when it's dangerous. Natalie's eyes widened. Mr. Harlow, I don't have the qualifications for that kind of position. You have the only qualification that matters, Vincent replied. Integrity. Everything else can be learned. Will you accept? Natalie looked out at the city, thinking of her brother in college, her 2 jobs, and the simple life she had been living just days ago. Then she thought of the choice she had made to speak up, and how that single decision had changed everything. Yes, she said with a smile. I accept. Outside, the morning sun broke through the clouds, casting light across the Chicago skyline. Vincent Harlow had learned that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. And Natalie Brooks had discovered that courage, when combined with integrity, could change not just one life, but many. The conspiracy had been exposed. Justice would be served. And both their lives had been transformed by a midnight warning that neither would ever forget. The end.